Most coaches don't have a marketing problem, they have a clarity problem. They're drowning in tactics, chasing algorithms, and forgetting the one thing that actually sells: trust. My guest today has helped thousands of coaches and creators cut through that noise. The co-founder of DigitalMentors and host of the podcast Between Two Coaches, his systems have generated over $60 million, not because they're flashy, but because they're real. If you're tired of hype and ready for honesty in marketing, you are going to love this episode. Norbert Orlewicz, welcome to the EOR podcast. Let's go. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Quinn Magnuson, the Effort Over Results podcast. I want to talk to you today about how too many people teach marketing as noise, a lot of tactics without truth. But my guest today brings real depth. The co-founder of DigitalMentors and host of the top-rated podcast Between Two Coaches, helping thousands of coaches and creators simplify, clarify, and scale with integrity, not gimmicks. His frameworks have driven over $60 million in sales worldwide with his partners. Please welcome one of the clearest thinkers in digital strategy, Norbert Orlewicz.
Thank you, Quinn. Appreciate that introduction. I love it. Appreciate it, and honored to be here. It's going to be fun.
Excellent. Well, this has been a long time coming. We've been chatting about this, I think, for at least 5 or 6 months, and I'm super excited to have you on the show. We always start at the beginning, and what I mean by the beginning is sort of your background and how it led you to where you are today. So let's start with your background story. What drew you into the online coaching and marketing world, I believe back in 2008?
Oh my God. It is quite a story. I'm going to try to keep it short because there's a lot of pieces. I mean, it all starts back from my childhood for sure. As a teenager, I think I've never been one to follow the status quo. As a teenager, me and a friend of mine started a t-shirt printing business. So that entrepreneurial spirit has always been there. I grew up with stories of my parents growing up and living in communism. So the whole concepts of that tyranny and that oppression and the idea that you couldn't even have like your own business and stuff like that. So the idea of entrepreneurship has always appealed to me. And then I got into theater in high school, which led me to move out to the West and kind of pursue that, which really helped me to develop my speaking and presentation and presence and confidence and all that kind of stuff. Because I was an immigrant kid, English as a second language, with a pretty funky name. You can imagine the kinds of names that the kids came up with in elementary school and stuff, right? So I was very shy. I'm super introverted. I'm a big hermit. Speaking on stage, it was an absolute fear of mine until a theater teacher told me that he saw a lot of potential in me and had me pursue that. So I did. I pursued it for a little bit. And then I dropped out of theater school in Vancouver, went through a bit of a sort of spiritual quest at the time in my early 20s, being out in BC, being exposed to some recreational fun times. And I went on a bit of a journey, became a snowboard bum for a few winters, and then got introduced to the network marketing industry. And that was, I like to call it the gateway drug to entrepreneurship, because that kind of got me started and allowed me to develop those parts of me that I needed to develop. Because I have no formal education, didn't go to business school, don't have a business degree, didn't study marketing and all that kind of stuff. So network marketing actually helped me to develop a lot of the mindset that's necessary to have success in entrepreneurship and sales, where you get paid on your performance. It also helped me to develop as a coach, because you have to support the new team members and distributors that come on board. And we spent a lot of time in that industry on mindset, personal development. That's where I got exposed to people like Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn and all these incredible thinkers, and really started to shift my mindset. Then, after about 6 or 7 years of struggle and failure in that industry, I discovered direct response marketing. I got introduced to direct response marketing, marketing online, found a mentor, a coach at the time in about 2006 here in Canada. And he showed me what they were working on with lead generation funnels and paid advertising through Google. And I had a huge breakthrough in 2007 when I started promoting an affiliate offer, a high ticket affiliate offer, and made my first 6 figures. And that was the last time I ever went to a job. So that was in 2006. And then by circumstance, I got introduced to a couple of people, Brian Finale being one of those, and then a developer. And I came up with this idea of a membership and community and educational platform to help other network marketers that were struggling because they were being taught do home parties and Tupperware parties and hotel meetings and go bug your friends and family. And we were like, this isn't marketing. This is like amateur hour. Can we actually do some real marketing here? We've got MySpace at the time. That was our social media platform.
Yep.
We've got online marketing that's just starting to pick up, and we saw it as an incredible opportunity. So we wanted to share what we were learning with that industry, which was not received very well back in 2008 because that industry was a bit of a dinosaur at the time. So we ruffled a few feathers and had a lot of success supporting other distributors and teaching them online marketing strategies. And it just kind of went on through there. So I'll stop there and see if you've got any questions.
Well, a lot of questions. I want to pick the right one. What I want to know is, and you'd be hard pressed to know for anyone to really guess that you were a quiet kid and really, have to come out of your shell and be
Super shy.
super shy, right? And this, I could see that in the way you talk today, Norbert. What's interesting is the path that you took. It certainly was not a straight path. It really looks like it was just different levels of considerable effort in different areas, kind of being directionally correct, not absolutely correct, as I like to say. And really it just sort of guided you to something that became your passion. And that's something that I've noticed with Digital Mentors, the group you're with now, the passion that comes through it's not shticky. It's not something that feels like it's all about just driving revenue for the company. You truly are out there to help. So, but what was the problem that you and Brian and James were really obsessed with solving that led to the creation of Digital Mentors? Whoa, 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 whoa. Sorry, everybody, for interrupting the show. I just came to you to ask a favor. If you enjoy the content we're putting out here on Effort Over Results, the podcast, I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button. It costs you nothing. We're not going to spam you. We do 1 to 2 episodes a week, and we would just love to have more people see and hear the great guests that we're getting each week here on the show. So that's one request I have. The other request I have is for you to go to our website, effortoverresults.com, poke around, take a look, see if there's anything there that really excites you or gets you energized as a business owner, as a leader. I think you'll find something interesting there. And we have assessments for your team and for you to find out if you are truly leading with an effort over results philosophy. And now, let's get back to the show.
With Digital Mentors, yeah, that's easy. We wanted to expand our market. So we were really focused in the network marketing space, direct response marketing, high ticket sales, which was great. And we love that industry. But I kind of lost my passion for that industry. And I really enjoyed much more working with coaches and thought leaders who really wanted to grow a personal brand online, because that's where I see the real potential. And so we kind of got stuck in the business, to be perfectly honest. Somewhere around 2015, we started thinking about transitioning into a different market, expanding into the coaching space, but we were so firmly planted in the network marketing space, and we had established so many of these relationships that it was kind of like trying to move like a giant ship freight liner, in a different direction, and it was almost impossible to do. And there was 100 reasons why we shouldn't do it, and we almost didn't do it until a crisis point in 2023 forced us to do it, which was really interesting. So we were just starting to shift our branding and our messaging into Digital Mentors in 2022, but we couldn't make a clean break. We still didn't know how to make that clean break. And a fortuitous event, which was actually a horrible crisis, we discovered that our longtime partner was actually embezzling money and had bankrupted the company at that point. And so as we discovered that, we were forced to literally shut that company down and start the brand new company, which now in hindsight, looking back at it, even though it was absolutely traumatic for all of us involved, it was an absolute blessing because it forced us to move quickly and decisively. And this is one of the things when I look back at, my crazy journey, what I think the one thing through all of that is just this inherent trust that I'm being led on the right path. Through all the chaos, through all the craziness, there's this part of me that's intuitive, and it trusts in the synchronicities and the events that happen, and trusts that they're taking me down the right path. Because that incident, it could have rocked a lot of people. It could completely devastate you where it's like, what do I do now? I'm done with this. But it actually inspired us to now launch really quickly and take a completely different direction because I knew that this was the path for us. I knew that this was actually a gift and not a traumatic situation. And that's kind of the way I look back through all my crazy decisions and choices that I made. Some of them worked out, some of them didn't, but when I connect the dots, it all led us to this place right here. And so there's that inherent trust that I trust I'm on the right path, and I trust that God will show me the right things, will put the right people in front of me if I just stay persistent and keep following and never quit.
I'm going to say amen to that, brother. I think everybody has at least one of those moments in their life where in the moment they feel like this is like could possibly be the worst thing that's ever happened. And if you pull that timeline out far enough and you look back on it, it changes you. It changes how you handled that situation, changes you. Now you could say for better or worse, but I believe that for most part, it helps people bring new perspective to their life and helps them go down a new path. And so that's obviously your story, Norbert. It certainly has happened to me. You know my story. Basically, it was a principal telling me as a teacher, you'll never teach here again. Okay, good. I'm just going to go out and make six figures doing something else. I love that story, and I love that even you brought faith into it. So thank you for that. Being a marketing specialist, you often talk about simplicity over strategy. Why do some companies and some people just make marketing harder than it really needs to be?
Sometimes out of necessity, sometimes out of lack of context and understanding. I'll just speak to, sort of the solopreneurs right now,
Sure.
the coaches, the solopreneurs who are trying to get their own business off the ground, and you don't have a lot of capital, you don't have a lot of money, you don't have deep pockets. So I think a lot of it comes from a lack of clarity. There is so much noise online, so much noise in the world in general, but so much noise online. And if you spend any amount of time researching marketing or trying to solve the problems of lead generation and personal branding and content marketing and all these things that we do with online marketing, the algorithms are going to inundate you with more content, more ads, more gurus, more techniques, more strategies, more things to invest in and buy. And it just becomes really, really overwhelming. And so what we need to do is we need to have that basic fundamental understanding and context. And the big problem is that most people don't have a marketing degree. They didn't go to marketing school. They didn't learn the foundations and fundamentals of marketing. And so all we're exposed to is these tactics and techniques. And I want to define these words a little bit better. The way that I use these words is when I talk about strategy, it's your comprehensive marketing strategy. When we think about all the different strategies out there, I call those the tactics and techniques. So Instagram, posting viral reels on Instagram, that's a tactic, that's a
Right.
technique. That's not a comprehensive marketing strategy. And that's the problem is when people ask me, Norbert, what's the best marketing strategy to get more leads and get more clients for my business? My answer is having one. You need to have a marketing strategy because most likely you don't have one. You're just trying lots of different things to see what sticks. And the problem with that is that nothing will ever stick. I've coined this new phrase that I start saying now after 20 years in this industry because I see this happen to people all the time. I see this happen to my clients. They have one wrong thing fail, one wrong thing not perform properly. And all of a sudden it's, that didn't work. We better try something else.
Mhm.
And that is the exact opposite of what you should be doing in that moment. In that moment, you got to figure out, all right, well, what did work? What didn't work? What do we fix? What do we improve? The idea is that every single marketing strategy or technique or tactic out there, every single one of them works. You just haven't worked it long enough to master it, to improve it, to optimize it, to make it work for you. So that's where your focus needs to be. But first of all, you better make sure you're barking up the right tree. So you better make sure that the tactic or technique or strategy that you're trying to implement is actually aligned with not only your business, your niche, and the clients that you're pursuing, but also with you as a human, as an individual, with your personality, with your natural gifts, strengths, talents, and abilities. When I was in network marketing, I could not create the success that my peers were creating because I was trying to be somebody that I wasn't. All of my upline sponsors and mentors at that time were A-type driver personalities, right? They could walk into a room and walk out with connections and phone numbers. because they could talk to anybody about anything and immediately build relationships. I suck at that. I'm horrible in networking situations. I'm awkward and weird if I have to like ask for somebody's number or connection or anything like that. Like those things just make me feel so awkward and uncomfortable. So I could never be that person. And it wasn't until I discovered that my strength is actually as a creator and a mechanic to fix things, to optimize marketing strategies, to get clear on marketing messages. When I was able to shift my energy into that, into those activities, all of a sudden we built a business into the seven figures.
I think one of the biggest mistakes companies make, and I talk about entrepreneurs and small business owners when it comes to marketing. Well, one of the mistakes they make is they have no patience. Two, they think, like you said, if it doesn't work, well, let's scrap it because we're wasting money. And three, you're right. There's no strategy. I've met with so many business owners in my life that I ask, well, what's your marketing strategy? It's like, well, it's funny. I heard this more than enough times. Well, my daughter in the back, she does all her posting to Instagram, and I'm like, that's not a strategy, that's a tactic. Yet that's the execution. That's the now you're doing it. But why is she doing it? Right?
Why?
Why are they doing it? How often are they doing it? Does it match, your brand? Do you have a particular message you're trying to get out there? Is it congruent through all your channels? That's a strategy. It's like a football team going into a game with a plan that you've worked on all week, and they run the opening kickoff back and you give up and say, okay, scrap that. Let's just go to something else. Patience, people, when it comes to marketing. So what's the difference between, for my listeners out there who are trying to now grasp the definition, what's the difference between marketing and advertising?
Mm. Okay, that's good. And there's lots of different definitions for this. So I'm just going to sort of wing it
I
off.
want Norbert's definition
Yeah.
of this.
Yeah, exactly. Advertising for me is just getting attention, right? It's advertising is kind of the front end of the whole process, is getting attention. That's the way I kind of look at it. Might be right or wrong, I don't know. Marketing for me is the whole strategy, is the comprehensive process of moving a prospect from cold market to client customer. And there's basically three stages in that customer journey. There's typically five stages in the customer journey once we go into fulfillment and then loyalty and referrals and all that kind of stuff. But I'm just focusing on the three initial stages to get the client. And those three stages are really simple. And this is what marketing is all about, is moving people through this conversation of attention, consideration, and acquisition. We got to get their attention. We got to get them to consider doing business with us. So that's where the engagement comes in. That's where relationship building comes in. Know, like, and trust, establishing authority and credibility, demonstrating your expertise, all comes in that engagement piece. And then finally, it's the enrollment, the sales conversation, and enrolling them into the process. Understanding that 95% of the leads that we generate, the interest that we create here in attention, 95% of those people, and even the people that might be engaging with our content or engaging with our brand, they might be on our email list, they might be following us or subscribe to our YouTube channel, 95% of them are not ready to buy. They're not sales qualified leads, they're marketing qualified leads. And with these people, we just want to have them in our distribution channels. We want to have them in our audience. We want to develop and build those relationships, but we want to identify in this stage, we want to identify who's ready to buy. And we move those people into the enrollment conversation. So marketing is getting people moving through that conversation. And those three stages, I look at it as a conversation. Yes, it's a funnel, but really all a funnel is a conversation. And at every stage of the conversation, there's different things that you're talking about, and there's different mediums with which we communicate, right? So in the attention getting stage, it's more top of funnel type of content, just getting attention, just getting interest, establishing authority and credibility. Why should I listen to this guy? Oh, okay, that's pretty interesting. That's pretty good. I'll follow him. And so it's those initial stages of getting the attention. It's a different conversation. Once we get into the engagement piece, the consideration piece, now people are looking to consume more longer form content. They really want to know, what are you really about? How are you different from the other people that I could invest my money with? So that's when they want to attend the webinars, or they want to download some kind of report. They want to go a little bit deeper with you. Maybe they're ready to book a call with you, but now that's getting closer into that into the acquisition piece. And as you can see, every stage, the conversation is very, very different. So we have have to create different assets and different content to speak to the people in those different stages. Right. So you talk about the typical business owner. Yeah, I've got my daughter posting on Instagram. That's great. That's a nice busy activity. But what's the purpose of it? Who is she speaking to? At which stage of the conversation? And most importantly, how are those pieces of content moving people to the next stage in the conversation?
Yeah. One of the biggest confusion points that I think business owners have is when you mention brand to them. A lot of the business owners I speak to, they think that's color and logo, right? You say brand to them and they see the Nike swoosh, they see the golden arches. And I'm like, no, it has nothing to do with your brand and logo. What does brand mean to you?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you say that because that's another big challenge here is if you don't have the training in marketing and specifically in direct response marketing.
Mm,
I think this is one of the things that gives me the knowledge and gives people like myself the knowledge and expertise and ability to really help solopreneurs. Because most of us, when we think of marketing, we think of big brand marketing. We think of the big corporations that we see marketing. We think of the billboards. We think about the national commercials. That's what we think of marketing. As a solopreneur, we don't have access to those things. So we actually must, if we want to get results, we must focus on direct response marketing and not branding,
mhm.
right? Getting a billboard or just putting it out an ad so people know your brand, that is going to be a huge waste of money as a solopreneur. You better have some deep pockets for that. No, if I put out an ad, I want that ad to generate a direct return on investment. That's what direct response marketing is about. And there's a different strategy with direct response marketing than branding marketing, right? Branding marketing is getting people to know your name so that when the time comes, they think of you when they need to buy that service. My God, that could be years from now, right? We need to focus on direct response marketing. When I teach on branding, yeah, I don't care about logos, colors, your pretty website. None of that really matters. For me, branding is about the message. Getting clear on some of the fundamental questions. Who are you, number one? Who are you in the marketplace? This is about your market positioning. How are you different than your competitors? How is your conversation different from the conversation that's happening in the space right now? What's unique about you? What's about you? What's unique about your perspective, your opinion, right? So that's the who are you? And also, who are you as a person? Who are you going to be able to best connect with and resonate with and attract into your space? I'm not going to appeal to everybody. There's some people that I'm sure listen to me or look at me and just don't like me. Totally cool. I want that actually in my marketing. I want to create that separation between the people who love me and the people that hate me because that's how I build that following. I always use an example of Chip Wilson with Lululemon because he's a bit of a controversial figure. And he created controversy initially in the first few years of Lululemon because he didn't have any extra large sizes in his clothing. Because Ocean, his ideal client, was not extra large size. Sorry to say, but she wasn't. That's not who their ideal client was. Now, obviously, they expanded into other verticals and they expanded their market share once they were able to establish themselves. But initially, he knew that he had to build a cult like following with the people who loved exactly what he did. And so he maintained his focus very, very sharp, right? So branding is about who are you? Who do you serve? Who can you serve better than anybody else? How do you serve them? How is your process different? How is your framework different? How is your modalities or methodologies different? How can you solve these persistent problems that your clients have been dealing with better than what they've tried in the past? So that's how you serve them. And then finally, what do you stand for? Do you have an opinion? Do you have a perspective? Can you stand on that? And, not necessarily create controversy, but man, stand for something. You can't please everybody. Not if you want to be an effective marketer. Absolutely not.
That last statement really it leads me very nicely into my next question. And I know that you have built your brand on integrity and Digital Mentors is building its brand on integrity. So what does ethical marketing actually look like in practice? How can people tell the difference between ethical marketing and clickbait or unethical marketing?
Oh, that's a good question too. Yeah, I think it starts with permission-based marketing. Seth Godin coined that term many, many years ago. Permission-based marketing, just the idea of consent. Don't expect everybody to need your product and service. Care about your prospect more than you need to prove your worth, right? So it's the difference between creating a LinkedIn profile and positioning it as a resume. Here's all the things I've accomplished. Here's my qualifications. Here's my certifications. That's a resume. People aren't hiring you for a job. I mean, unless you're using LinkedIn to get a job, fair enough. But if you're looking to build your personal brand, you need to speak to your prospect, to your ideal client. So your messaging should really be taking into consideration what they need instead of what you want. That's where your focus needs to be. It's that great quote, so cliche, but Zig Ziglar, I think, coined it. He said, help enough people get what they want, and you will get what you want. And really, if you just come from that place of service, and I think for coaches, this is a lot easier than for other people because the coaches that I've engaged with and spoken to, thousands over the years, most of us are really just good people, good hearted, good centered people. We care about others. We want to do good. We won't always. We're going to screw up. We're going to make mistakes. Unfortunately, we will not be able to please everybody. We will have some people that get upset at us for whatever reason. And as long as we do our best to try to resolve that and to keep communication open and always come from that place of service and putting the other person ahead of our needs, that's what I believe. That's where I believe ethical marketing starts. And if you're coming from that place, then you're doing well. You're doing good.
I believe with digital mentors, and I've felt that firsthand, and I applaud you and Brian and James for bringing that forward. And I believe there is definitely a code of ethics there. Um, so you've mentored hundreds, if not thousands, of other coaches, creators, people who are trying to get their message out and to help others. What what signals do you see from the people that you mentor and coach that tell you that they're going to be successful even before results show up?
Mm. It's got to be the mindset and the attitude. It really is. I mean, it's that mindset of the mindset and the commitment and the dedication to their vision and their passion and their mission, really. Because the truth of the matter is it's almost like a rite of passage. You need to be kicked on your butt. Like you need to fall and you need to fail as an entrepreneur to prove to yourself and to prove that you can handle this. Because I mean, entrepreneurship is not for everybody. You know, I see a lot of people transition from corporate. I was never a corporate, but I did work a lot of kind of menial dead end jobs in my early 20s, lots in the service industry. I did some physical labor and things like that. And I just hated working for other people. I hated jobs. I'm not really, I mean, I've never got fired, always did really well, all that kind of stuff. But I always knew that I needed to work for myself. And I've been in entrepreneurship now for 20 years. And I tell you right now, it's like this. Like even when things are going well, and even when you get successes, I guarantee you there's going to be new problems you never expected that just challenge you to up level to the next level, right? It's newer problems, it's bigger problems. So that mindset, that mental attitude, that willingness to be able to overcome the challenges and the obstacles and the barriers and to be able to bounce back and have success after a failure. I remember a mentor of mine actually shared this with me because I asked him kind of a similar question. It was more around the people that he works with, that he brings onto his team, and how do you find such good talent? Because he had an amazing, talented team. And he said to me, Norbert, it's the people who are able to shrink that time between failure and getting back up and working to create the solution. So you can notice this in yourself. You take self-awareness of yourself. When you get knocked down, when you have a bad day, when things don't work out for you, how long do you stay in that place of negativity? And this is a skill. This is a skill that we can develop. We can get better at this. Okay. But the longer you stay in that place, for some people, it can be days, right? It can be a week or two that they get thrown off. And all of a sudden, it's just completely crumbled their confidence, their self esteem, their self doubt, and they just go into this downward spiral, right? Those people, they're going to have a difficult time in this space, regardless of whatever they want to do as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. It's the people who are able to shorten that gap, that time from failure, from a mistake happening, from some kind of show that just exploded, that just happened, to, all right, let's focus on the solution and let's move forward. The shorter you can create the shorter you can make that gap, the more success you're going to be able to have.
There is an enormous amount of truth in that. And I've felt that. And I think it's important for people to, when those moments happen, whether it's just the night, the day, or maybe it happens for days or maybe longer than that, it's important for people to have someone to talk to. And I think that's something that society in general really underestimates the value of a coach, a mentor, an advisor, just someone you can talk to that you can bounce that isn't your significant other, that isn't in your direct circle of influence, inside your household, but someone outside of that that can help you just talk through things. And I know that that always helps me for myself. And and the question then becomes, Norbert, it's like, who coaches the coaches, right? It's like I always ask my RMT, my massage therapist, like, who massages the massage therapist? Because you know what you're doing. How do you know if they know what they're doing, right? Same thing with coaching. It's important to have people, other coaches or mentors to really talk you through those dark times, because as a solopreneur and entrepreneur, whether you're in coaching or not, doesn't matter what you're doing, whatever service or product you're bringing to the world, you're going to have those crisis of meaning moments. And everybody has them, and you have them on the regular as entrepreneurs. And then there's some days where it's like literally it's the best thing you've ever done, and then you're down on the bottom and you got to find your way out of it. And I think you're right. There is a unique personality that is an entrepreneur and a solopreneur. It's like risk is just a data point almost, right? And those moments are just data points. I want to go back to, when you first meet a coach or consultant, what's the first mistake you see most common in their offer? What they're bringing to the table?
They're trying to sell coaching.
Hmm.
You're not selling coaching.
And stop right there.
Yeah. Nobody wants to buy coaching. Nobody wants to hire a coach. People have a problem, a challenge, an obstacle, something that they don't want, they want less of, and they want more of this other thing, or they want a specific outcome, result, or transformation. Okay. You don't sell coaching, you sell a result. You sell a transformation. You sell an outcome. And this is challenge for coaches because, especially if you're a certified coach, you would never be taught to make a promise, right? As coaches, we're taught to really get into the client's world, and we're there to sort of be reactive almost, in a sense, to what they give us, right? We're supposed to inquire and ask deep questions and help them figure out what their truth is and what their path is, and what help them essentially come up with the answers for themselves, right? And so we think that that's what we're selling, but it's very difficult to sell that. What we need to do as marketers is we need to understand that marketing is a completely different language than coaching. And in marketing, we actually need to lead. We need to show up as the leader. And we can have a discussion about this, but my personal feeling is that people, when they're looking for a coach, consultant, mentor, guide, trainer, whatever word you want to use, and I use those words all interchangeably because it's kind of a definition really that you put on it, not what somebody else puts on it. Okay. I don't necessarily consider myself a coach. Some people might call me a coach. I consider myself more of a mentor and a trainer. It's a word. It really doesn't matter. But as a marketer, we understand that we need to lead our prospect to the solution. Sometimes we even need to give them a gentle nudge or a push to get off the fence because we know we can see their potential better than they can, right? We're all human. And so we all deal with self-doubt and fear. And sometimes we need that coach. This is the thing about coaching. When you think about life coaching and executive coaching and certification in coaching, we're taught to be this, passive, ask questions, help them discover the truth. Cool. But then I think about athletic coaching, and athletic coaches are very different than life coaches.
Yeah.
No, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because they push you and they whip you and they spank you and they smack you upside the head sometimes when you need it.
Yeah.
That's the kind of coach that sometimes I need to show up as with my clients. I'm not always going to be the nice passive coach. Well, tell me how you feel about that. Well, let's explore that a little bit deeper. Let's see what your truth is. Sometimes I know that what my client needs is actually just to be handed the answer or to be given a specific task because I know it's going to serve them in the long run if they just execute on that. So I have issues with the terminology of coach and how the ICF and certified coaching has kind of like defined this word coach and says, this is a coach and this is not a coach. Once you cross this line, now you're a consultant, but you're no longer a coach. I don't really buy into that stuff because, again, I use the athletic coach as an example. Is that a coach under the terms of an ICF coach? Is that a mentor? Is that a trainer? Who is that? I don't know. Whatever word you want to use, I believe that sometimes our clients need that athletic coach to step in and not always that passive ICF type coach.
How do you, when you started in 2008, and it's crazy that that was 17 years ago, and how technology has advanced, and certainly in the last 2 to 3 years with AI. How do you balance automation? And let me explain this for the people who are listening here. I'm so blown away by what we can accomplish these days with AI and with automation. It's beautiful. However, what also blows me away is the like you said, the noise. Because everybody can do it and everybody has access to these tools, the second you even discuss, I think I should consider getting a business coach, life coach, whatever coach, your phone is just now all of a sudden sending you ads for all of that, right?
Yep.
So how do you balance automation but with authenticity in modern client acquisition? Because it feels like, and I had this discussion this morning, modern client acquisition seems to be, go to our landing page, see the call to action, send us your email. Now you're part of a CRM loop, and I'm now caught in the circular trap of nonstop emails. How do you balance that between automation and authenticity so people don't feel like they're just caught in that automation loop?
This is actually a huge topic. There's so many different ways that we could go on this. I see this as just as all the other trends that I've seen over the last 20 years. And so when the market dives into a trend full on, you want to ride that trend, and then you want to find your time where you want to zig, where you want to zag. When everyone's zigging, you zag, right? You kind of take the opposite approach. So this is a perfect opportunity with that as well. And again, I think it all comes down to intention, the intention with which you are approaching these strategies and with which you implement these strategies. So there's a level of understanding that you need to have, right? Without that level of understanding, you're going to blindly use these tools like everybody else does. So you need to take the time and invest the time to learn how to use these tools properly so that you have a good understanding of it, and then have the intention behind it to still have that human connection. So find those places where you can have that human connection. I automation is great usually for more of the top of funnel activities, right? The initial attention getting activities. When you're working at scale in volume, then automation is absolutely effective and very, very useful. So, for instance, running paid ads on the Meta platforms is a form of automation, right? I don't have to manually go connect with thousands of people. I can have my video pushed out to thousands of people every single day. That's a form of automation. On LinkedIn, we use an automation tool to send connection requests to specific ideal potential clients, right? So most people are sitting on LinkedIn sending manual connection requests. We just set up a system that does all of that automatically for us so that we wake up in the morning with already qualified people that have now connected with us that we can engage in. But now we engage with them. Now we actually have that human engagement. So we automate those processes that are more at scale. But then as soon as you move people through that, again, we're back to that moving people through that conversation funnel, right? Attention, consideration, and acquisition. The closer we get to the acquisition piece, the more we want to bring the human element in there now. Okay. Because this is where that personalization is going to be so important. And yes, we can use AI to personalize. We can use software to personalize certain things as well. This is the cool use of this tool. We used to do a thing in 2010 where, based on the ad that somebody clicked, we knew exactly the keywords that they were searching. So we would dynamically optimize the landing page to have that keyword on the page. So that was a little bit of automation that we were able to do to personalize. This was way back in 2010. Now with AI on our Compass workshop report, we're able to print out a 32-page document for our attendees that's completely personalized to their business and their niche and their goals and what they want to accomplish and the problems and challenges that they're facing. So this is amazing. We can use tools, we can use technology even now to personalize reports and PDFs and emails. So we absolutely want to leverage these tools. And then we want to include ourselves. We want to include that human element as soon as we can to be able to create that personalization. Because the more that we see this AI and automation, AI content, AI emails, the more sophisticated the user is becoming. So now I'm sure that you can spot AI content from a mile away, right? I'm sure even the most regular, normal YouTube viewer scrolling YouTube comes across a YouTube AI video and they're like, oh, this doesn't feel right. This is weird, and scrolls off. So the market picks up on these trends very quickly. And the market, when there's no knowledge of it, these things can work really effectively. But the more sophisticated the market gets, the more we need to then change and adapt. So, for instance, a few months ago when AI was super awesome at writing emails, you could just use the AI email. But now you're starting to see the patterns in it, the repetition in it. There's one person that I subscribe to, and every single one of their emails is just AI. Like I don't think she even like edits these things at all, right? And so it's like I just know that I'm reading AI. I know I'm not reading her human communication, so I unsubscribed. So that gives us an opportunity. If that's where the trend is happening and people are starting to click off of these AI generated pieces of content, then let's make them more human. How can we make them more human? Right. So it's finding that balance and really just having the intention behind it that I'm here to serve somebody and I'm not just here to collect cash.
Is there is there a full circle moment in that? And what I mean by that, Norbert, is we talked about course correction. And I believe in the world things course correct politically, economically. It happens. It just naturally, because you can only go so far one way, and then you have to somehow find your way back to the middle, or unfortunately sometimes past the middle.
Yeah.
But when it comes to that marketing, that ethical marketing you talked about, and the fact that the things are so automated, and 2 years ago when AI really started to come out, people couldn't tell the difference between AI and real, and now everybody's pretty savvy at it. We're becoming more knowledgeable. Does that create that full circle moment where people are going to get sick of AI and now want to be advertised, marketed to, reached out to far more on a one-to-one human level? Do you see that ever happening, or are we too far down the rabbit hole with technology and AI that it's never really going to course correct?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. I don't know that it ever will course correct. I think there's always
Yeah.
going to be a place for it. I think it's going to be an and or kind of a thing. And I think it's about you figuring out for yourself and your business and your brand where you want to position yourself. Do you want to go all in on the tech and be, tech focused and future focused and leverage all the automations and all the tools and, leverage AI avatars and user generated content that's AI created? You can. Or you can choose to be the authentic human element. I do wonder if there is going to be a division, a separation of society where one kind of, and this starts to expand way past marketing. Now we're talking about societal, institutions and trends and all that kind of stuff. I see a division happening for sure between the people that want to pursue the future and technology and all the things that will come with it. I think of the term of transhumanism because that's really kind of the ultimate goal of all of this technology is to essentially eventually blend technology and human, right? Blending the steel and the clay. And I do see that happening. I think that's unavoidable, and there's going to be a huge trend for that. But just as much as that trend will push in that direction, I believe there's going to be a massive opposite trend which pushes for more humanity, for more of the human connection. Because as we embrace more technology, I mean, we're already cyborgs. This thing right here that we carry with us 24/7 that gives us access to information at the click of a button makes us into pretty much cyborgs. I am part tech because I'm using this. But we can already see in certain circles and even in younger generations, trends and movements of kids starting to shut down their social medias, right? Making their social medias private and not public so that they're not just exposed to the entire world. So I believe there's going to be a separation. There's going to be a division, and we can simply choose which path do we want to go to, because I think either way, there's going to be a market for us to serve.
Great answer, and not because I think you're correct or incorrect. I think it's just it's a beautiful perspective on a little bit of what I said about course correction, but I think also just that we we tend to, as humans, go towards comfort. We tend to go towards things that make our lives easier, and we have been for the last century. It has literally been the century of just seeking comfort. And I think people are starting to realize that that's not necessarily what makes them feel better. I even write in my book that we're actually hardwired for challenge, for
Yeah.
putting in effort and for feeling like we actually are accomplishing something. And I kind of jokingly think back to the movie Wall-E by Disney, Pixar, I believe, about we're going to be floating around on recliner chairs, 450 pounds, overweight, everything served to us, a screen in front of our faces. And they eventually realize how bad that is, and they start to rebuild the earth. For those of you who have little kids that, or I shouldn't say little kids, they're probably Gen Z now, but that whole concept that we're going to go back to humanism, but understanding we still need to accept that technology is part of our lives. Let's go back. I want to go back to digital mentors just for a couple minutes, because I really like what you guys bring to the table in terms of, and the name says it all. I mean, you're mentors. It's not coaches, it's
Yep.
mentors. You're there to guide people and help people, and you're helping them through the digital, but you're also helping them on a personal level, because these people are bringing coaching services. They're trying to help others, and you're trying to help them to help others, but you're trying to help them market themselves better, because a lot of people just don't have that knowledge. What do you take most pride in through digital mentors?
This is hard because for me, I still consider us very early on in our startup phase. You know, we're 2 years in, and it's been a challenge. And there is such a vision that I have for this company and where we want to take it that is nowhere close to where we want to take it. So I have to accept what we have accomplished. I've got to look at the accomplishments that we do have and not look at the big vision and the journey still ahead of us. I mean, I'm really proud of the team that we've put together that have been able to overcome the challenges of the initial year of this company, because most people looking at it from the outside have no idea the challenges and the chaos of what we have gone through to launch and grow this company in that first year. It was one of the hardest things that every single one of us on the team have ever done. And so I'm really proud of the team. And then second of all, I'm definitely proud of the concept that we have to really meet our clients where they're at and help each one in a personalized way through a group coaching program. So we've got over 100 clients in our program that we work with and we help and we support. And so obviously I cannot coach 100 people on a weekly regular basis, not able to do that. So we designed it in a way where we're able to give group coaching and serve more people and still deliver a personalized approach, still deliver personalized guidance and feedback. That's a difficult business to build. You talk with other marketers in this space, and they would be like, you guys are crazy for doing that, because the fulfillment piece becomes very challenging, right?
Mm.
You see some of the gurus out there in our space who have very successful big businesses. I'm thinking of a few in particular. And the reason why they've been able to scale their businesses so quickly is because their fulfillment process is very easy. They have one solution that they give every single client. They have one funnel, one process, one system that they install into every single one of their clients. And the client has to adapt their business, their processes to make sure that they can execute on that cookie cutter system. It's kind of like a franchise model, right? Franchises work really well because you're using a proven system. That's awesome. But these systems don't work for everybody. And so we wanted to take a different approach. We wanted to be able to give personalized guidance and mentorship and feedback and help you come up with your own marketing strategy instead of just implementing somebody else's that might not even work for you. And I think we've done a pretty darn good job of that in our first couple of years. Obviously, as someone that's on the inside, I see all the things that we still need to improve on and fix, so it's hard to be like, oh, we're so awesome, we did so well, because I see all the improvements I still want to make. But we definitely, I think I'd say I'm super proud of that. I think that we've helped a lot of coaches really gain that clarity. And, I see it through the testimonials and the feedback we're getting from people, just the confidence they have to show up once they have that clear message and they're clear about who they're serving and how they're serving them.
And I agree with you, and it's what I said earlier. I think every coach, not only that you work with, but every person out there that's trying to bring something to the marketplace, a product, a service, to help others, they themselves need someone to talk to. And I think Digital Mentors does a fantastic job of that. And I appreciate the authenticity and the realness that you have. It's not just automated. Obviously, you have available automated tools, but it is much more on a personal level. Uh, I want to switch to the new podcast, Between Two Coaches. Great name. What inspired you to start the podcast? What is the goal of the podcast, and where can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. Multiple answers to that. DigitalMentors.com is our main website. DigitalMentors.com/podcast, I think, is where you'll find the podcast. And obviously, we're streaming on all of the platforms. So check that out. Couple of why did we start it? Well, I love interviews and I love I love this platform where we get to interview and have conversations. I've been doing it for many years through the webinars that we used to do with the previous company. It's an amazing opportunity to meet new people, to build connections, to grow your network, to potentially find collaborators and partners. So, collaboration is a big focus of mine and one of the big focuses for Digital Mentors in our moving into our third year. So that's a really important piece, is having this podcast to build those collaborative opportunities, to build those relationships. But then also, it's actually a client acquisition tool for us. I don't want to give away all our secrets on this podcast here, but this is actually one of the strategies that we teach, is launching a podcast not to become the next Diary of a CEO or the next Joe Rogan and have this amazing audience. Okay. Not that, because very few of us will ever, hit those milestones, right? But you can actually launch a podcast to actually interview your ideal clients. And when you have that opportunity, it opens up the door to easy conversations and easy relationship building with potential ideal clients. That's why our podcast is not about marketing. Our podcast is a podcast for coaches, by coaches, featuring coaches. So this gives us an incredible opportunity to, number one, build a network of coaches. So when I send my connection request messages on LinkedIn to connect with new coaches, what I say in that connection request is, I'm the host of a podcast and we're looking to grow our network of high quality coaches over the next few years. So that's why I'm sending a connection request. I get 40 to 50% acceptance on those connection requests. Why? Because it's a very aligned message. I'm not selling anything. And I'm on a mission to build a network of coaches to focus on collaborations and opportunities. And then my first ask isn't, hey, do you want to book a time to get on a coffee call meeting or chat for 30 minutes? Or can I sell you my coaching program? No, it's, hey, I check out their profile. You look like a coach that might have an interesting story and have lots of experience. Would you be open to being a guest on our podcast? That's a very low resistance type of an ask, type of a question, which leads more with value and gives us an opportunity to build relationships with our ideal clients before we try to sell or pitch them on anything. So we're actually using the podcast as a way to build connections with our ideal client, build connections with potential partners, collaborators, JV partners, affiliates that might promote our program down the road. We're using it to create content, because now we have long form pieces of content that we can publish on LinkedIn, on YouTube. We can take those long form pieces of content and make them into short form pieces of content. So it's part of our content marketing strategy. And it's also part of our engagement strategy. So when we're following up with prospects who maybe have gone to our workshop or our webinar, we can send them podcast episodes that are going to be relevant, the long form pieces of content. Because we know that most people, in this day and age in 2025, I think the stats are somewhere around, people will spend 7 to 15 hours consuming your content before they make a decision to buy from you. Okay. So this is one of the reasons why we do a podcast. It's one of the easiest ways to create content, create collaborative content, and make it an effective piece of your marketing strategy and also your acquisition strategy.
So how would that work for someone who their ideal client is leadership groups, so C-suite, CEOs, owners of companies, founders, business owners? How would that work for them if they wanted to start a podcast and attract that type? And what would you see as being the outcomes and benefits of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would focus that podcast around the conversations that the CEOs and the executives and the leadership types, the conversations that they want to have, the conversations that they want to get into. Let's talk about the challenges of leadership. Let's talk about the reality of leadership, of running companies in today's economy, in today's, political landscape, with all of the challenges that CEOs have. Because if I want to build relationships with CEOs, C-suite executives, I want to create a platform where they're going to want to be excited to come on and talk with me, to talk about those topics. I don't want to talk about, we're not going to talk about what I want to talk about. We're going to talk about what they want to talk about. And that gives me an opportunity to now invite them and to start that relationship, start that conversation, build those relationships, and then potentially lead them to the next step in the process, right? Because this is one of the things, like when people think about marketing, they're thinking marketing and sales. Let me throw some ads out. Let me throw some content out so I can get people into my sales funnel and sell them. Don't forget about the relationship piece, especially if you're an executive coach and you want to sell into organizations. Okay, we got to understand that that is a long sales cycle, right? That's very different than B2C, right? For us, we're B2C. We can get a coach on a webinar and enrolled in our program in 2 weeks. That's our sales cycle, typically about 14 to 21 days. But if I want to land a corporate contract, that could take 6 to 12 months of building relationships, of conversations back and forth. We just had a client on one of our group coaching calls, and she was talking about a corporate organizational client that she just landed and how she's been building that relationship for 6 months, to my point, right? So podcasting in this way is such an incredible way to open up that door and open up those conversations and build those deeper relationships.
That's awesome. And for those of you out there who are thinking about starting your own podcast, don't worry. There's lots of podcasts out there. There's lots of good ones. There's lots of bad ones. And the number one advice I would give you is that you don't have to have high price equipment. You don't have to have, all the best guests at the start. Just start the thing. Find one person who's willing to talk to you via a Zoom call and just have that conversation. Be a good conversationalist, and I believe there's opportunity in every conversation. Norbert, I wanna wind up things here with a little bit of a lightning round. Give me one word or a very short sentence to describe great marketing.
Emotional connection.
Okay.
Emotional connection. Yeah, you create an emotional connection in your viewer. There's a reaction. Positive or negative, there's an emotional reaction to your piece of content, to your video, to your ad.
Okay. Excellent. A book that every coach should read.
So many.
Or maybe a podcast they should listen to. How about one of the two?
Well, definitely between two coaches,
I was
definitely
gonna say,
the
you can't say
EOR.
your own.
Yeah, absolutely. Just looking at my bookshelf here to try to pick one or two that would be really good for you guys. I mean, Russell Brunson comes up because all of his books are really good for marketing perspective.
Mhm.
Yeah, anything by Russell Brunson, anything by Seth Godin on marketing. Um, those would be my biggest ones probably.
If you could work with in your role at Digital Mentors, and I realize this person already would be at the top of their game, but if you could sit down and converse and talk with a coach that already exists, and it could be one of the big names, who do you want to sit down with the most?
He's not a coach, but I honestly, the guy that I'm thinking about right now is the host of the Diary of a CEO.
Oh, Stephen Bartlett.
Yeah, Stephen Bartlett. Just who he is and the way he shows up and the trajectory of what he's been able to accomplish in
Yeah.
a short amount of time and the way that he runs that business or whoever runs that business with him or for him, I would just love to be able to pick his brain.
I love Stephen Bartlett. I think he's brilliant, and the way he has built that company has been incredible. I think Chris Williamson's another sort of great story
The
because
other one
here's a
I think
guy.
of too. Yeah.
Yeah, basically he was a events planner, like a DJ and event planner in the UK. And here's the other thing about podcasts, and I want people to listen to this who think about, starting a podcast. You always see the latest episodes, the most polished episodes of Modern Wisdom, Chris Williamson, of Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett, of Joe Rogan. Go back and watch their first episodes. It's a horror show. It's three guys sitting on a couch with one microphone sharing it, just BSing their way through an afternoon. And now there's 500 episodes, 1,000 episodes, and 5 million subscribers. It's incredible. So for those of you out there, it's just about putting the effort in and just starting. Last question, Norbert, for you, lightning round. Biggest marketing myth or marketing tactic you wish would just die and go away?
Oh, that's funny that I can't think of one right off the top of my head because every single day I see stuff that I'm just like frustrated with. I mean, marketers ruin everything.
Telemarketing.
Yeah, marketers ruin everything.
That should be on a billboard somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, Gary Vaynerchuk says that, right? And he's a big
Yeah.
marketer too, because we know it. Marketers ruin everything. You know what? I just wish that more people were just aware of the spin on everything. And we
Yeah.
see this, like I see this everywhere because I'm so aware of it now. The spin in commercials, the spin even on newscasts, just the spin, the way that people spin words and use certain words or leave certain things out to make something look a certain way, to get people to buy, to get you to buy into their story, whether it's not blatant lies, and because marketers do this all the time, it's not blatant lies, it's just like selectively leaving stuff out or selectively spinning something in a certain way. And it frustrates me. I hate it. And yet we all use it as marketers too, which is it's kind of like an unfortunate necessity of marketing, right? Because in marketing, you can't tell the whole story, right? You can't tell the whole story in a short form reel. You can't tell the whole story in a commercial. So you're kind of forced to spin it. But I wish that more people could see through it.
Yeah, I think for me the whole bait and switch thing is the most frustrating, and that's something that started 150, man, probably hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
It's the old, here's what we're promising, but read the fine print, right? Or we talk about outcomes, and what is the solution you're providing in the outcome, and you get bombarded with these, we can get you to six figures in 6 months, or we can do this for you. There's so much of that going around today that everybody's become so jaded. And unfortunately, there are some sheep out there that kind of just take the bait. But that's the one thing, and why I'm so jaded towards marketing in general a certain way, because I feel like everybody's making promises.
It's the
Everybody has the best this, everybody has the best answer to that. And yet none of it is actually believable.
I know. And it just creates more skepticism, which then makes it more difficult for the
The honest
authentic.
ones.
Yeah, the honest marketers. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's been huge over the last few years is the
Yeah.
massive claims and big promises and guarantees and stuff that people don't hold to. Yeah, it's unfortunate because it just gives marketing and sales a bad name.
It's
Unfortunately, I
got
don't
to,
think it's
right? Like
catch.
that's
Yeah.
how skeptical people have become because of the snake oil salespeople, right? It's now like I don't know what to believe anymore, especially since those ads keep popping up. We could talk marketing all day, Norbert. It's this has been packed with gold, this conversation. Anybody who wants to find Norbert or Digital Mentors, you can connect with him at digitalmentors.io or norbertonline.com. Check out the podcast Between Two Coaches. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, we should all be focusing on effort over results. Thanks, Norbert.
Thank you.